Perfection. Bradley, how are you, brother? It's you and I. You and I are on Simulation Talk 200. That's amazing. Private chat, brother. How are you? He's in the house. Okay. Simulation Talk 200. We'll wait for a few people to show up. What's up, Perplexed? How are you? Good to see everyone. Good evening. Laura Mooney Moon. Adonis is in the house. Dolphin, how are you? Present and open. I love it. It's beautiful. Nico, all the regs. So good to see you, my brother. Laura, thank you for the likes. Okay, so people slowly streaming in. Let's see what's happening here. All right, that's wonderful. Let's see if there's anything that we need to pay attention to here. Everyone is so happy. Okay, we're gonna put it right here. That way. Oh, I gotta clean up here. Holding. Welcome to Simulation Talk 200, TikTok and YouTube. I think I'm due for a haircut. How are everybody doing this evening? So fucking Terry, how are you, brother? Hello, Danny and Core fam and Core team. I love it more. I love that I have a description, Bradley. It says location yellow teal bars, face red smiling live. That's amazing. I have a description. Happy 200th. Same name. Indeed, I was trying to think if we should do something, I don't know, out of the ordinary for the 200th episode, but then I don't know. I realized I'm kind of overthinking it, I think, because then I would not be able to do today. Because today I was, usually Saturdays, I keep them for myself just so I keep my sanity. We went and explored some nature and waterfalls, and the dogs loved it. It was incredible. So I didn't really have time to think about it too much or prep. So we just dove right in, and I think we will still have an incredible 200th. Thank you so much. And tomorrow we're gonna have 201, and we're gonna keep going. And tomorrow we also have the members live. I'm doing amazing. Hold on, let me get my tea. So I watched today, by the way, the conversation on Piers Morgan. Wait, what? What am I saying? Piers Morgan. What's his name? Why am I? Oh yeah. I don't know what's going on with my brain. In the last few days, I've been a little out of it. Hopefully, I'm not getting something. But Piers Morgan and the conversation about the pyramids. Did you guys watch that one? Yeah, Piers Morgan. The report. Wait. Yeah, at first I thought maybe I'm confusing the name, but you know what I'm talking about. So he had the British reporter, and he has a show, and they were talking about the pyramids with Dibbles and two of the guys. I forget their name. They're always going Joe Rogan and another guy. Correct. Did you guys watch that one? Okay, so yeah, so I think I think even the people that are much more open-minded about it are kind of on the same page that it seems to be premature to be making these claims. And something that one of them said that I honestly don't know how nobody thought of before, and I didn't either, but it should have been right on the surface, pun intended. But when the guy said that, he's actually not on the skeptical side. The guy that said, "Why are we seeing an image from the side if it was scanned from the top?" This was the for dramatic emphasis. This little whatever that was flying around. But that tells you that that was already a recreation, so it's not the original image. So I love when you see the transformation of what great positive energy can directly affect someone who is living rocky. They don't even know what's happening. Uh, can you specify or clarify, Terry? Yeah. So I mean, they said that they saw something 2 kilometers down, right? How are they getting an image from the side of that if they're scanning from the top? Um, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to approach this. Now, here's the more interesting question for me because I'm truly not that interested in particular instances of something. I'm always interested in what these things mean about the larger picture of human understanding. So, what does this tell us about how we do things? One thing is strange, and again, I'm very open to the finding to be real, but I don't understand why they would make an announcement. And I haven't watched the full announcement, so I can't speak to that. But maybe here somebody can say I should probably watch the whole thing just to have the full information. But one thing I don't understand is if they did make the claims, or even if they were mentioning that by passing, that they should have already not done that. If they were talking, did they talk about in the actual conference that they when they declared it, that were they talking about the what they think it might be, or they didn't say anything about that, or like all the stuff about it might be tuning forks or energy source or anything like this? Was this something that anybody talked about when they declared about it, when they were saying it? No. So to be fair, Nico, the guy that spoke in the beginning on Pierce Morgan, who was not part of the panel, he was a separate guy, one of the people who helped to announce this message. He's some kind of an independent researcher, and what he explained, and I think he gave a really good explanation, that the technology that they were using, and this is why it's so contentious because it's a combination of two different technologies that were never put together before, and AI combined with it. So the technologies were, it's not SAR. It's they used SAR to create a particular resonance, and then they used the second device that only scans about 30 centimeters or something like this, like very, 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 very short distance in. So like something like this. That's as far as it goes in. But what it's really good at, I think he said it's microwaves or something, and he said it's really good at detecting the slightest vibrations really deep. And because they amplified the resonance with SAR, they then used the second technology to feel the differences in the oscillation. And then they used AI to help them reconstruct the data. That's basically the combination. Um, what's up, Chase? How are you, brother? So that was the claim. So that's fair enough. And I'm not even of the mind. Is she, baby? No. Okay. How do you know? Oh, you looked. Um, and I'm not even bothered by them making maybe like if they're confident enough, I wouldn't even mind of them saying, look, we're confident enough that before we even doing peer review or anything, we think that the public should know. I mean, obviously I'm doing that, right? Because I have my reasons and I have enough replications around people and a lot of scientists saying, hey, you have to put this to the ringer first before you put it out to the world. I disagree. It depends on how convinced you are with your claims. What I'm having a hard time understanding is how they can possibly be that confident to make an announcement to the world that way, especially because there was not. I guess the difference between, let's say, what I'm saying and between what they're doing is that they don't have many other individuals that already like bounce the information back to them saying, "Oh my God, yes, we're seeing the same thing." They don't have that, so I'm not sure why they're so sure. Also, like I said before, uh, what you see even in their representation from the side, that doesn't look anything like what the reconstruction that they show us at the end with the the staircases and all. Like that can be a lot of different things. So I don't know how they got there, and even if AI helped them reconstruct this, again, the question stands: why is it that we're seeing an image from the side? That's weird. I'm not saying they're lying or anything like this. I'm just confused as to why not then show us the raw data as to the way it appears when you're screaming from the top. So, what's up, Jessica? I mean, if it's a 3D scan, they could easily recreate it from an angle, but how would they do a 3D scan? No, that the 3D scan that far down is from that. Again, the image, the original image, even if you're doing a 3D scan to the bottom, should still be presented from the top like this. Because what you're showing me from the side is basically the already you already like this is another layer of reconstruction. It's not going to be the same thing. You have to show me from the direction that it was penetrating. What's up, Inside Out? My son was in a bad spot, and I spent the best day with him today. And all night he has been curiously saying, "Have you noticed how everything has synced up and worked perfectly today?" That's so good to hear. That's amazing. Have there been other substances people have used to see the code other than spice? Yes. We know mushrooms, and we know Aya works. And as of recently, we know that 5 works. So the 5 molecule, can't say the full thing, it works. I had a shaman test it with 5, and he said he saw the code. So we know that 5 works. Sofa King is saying someone pointed out your last 15 minutes of episode 198 the other night, and I gotta say that resonated with me, and I suggest everyone watch it. Great message, Dan. Thank you so much, Sofa King. I appreciate that. These subjects are very difficult for me to talk about because I feel like it's pointless, truly. But when people say things like what you said, it makes me feel more hopeful. And today I actually spoke to that friend of mine that I guess told you that actually encouraged me to maybe drill a little bit further down in good faith with people. Um, I spoke with him again today, and because he's a musician, he's a very successful musician, and he trains other musicians. And what he did basically is that because most musicians are, for the most part, very much on the left, very liberal. Which again, to remind everybody, I am. But there's this some kind of a mind virus going on where just rationale just exits the picture, and there's no way. There's just it's all emotion. And he, in the last couple of years, he was literally just like having this conversation, even if it's very difficult. And he said today, he said something very encouraging. He said, at this point, because I train musicians to not just know how to produce music on the highest level, I also train them how to be leaders in the community. And he said, I can tell you that now people are actually questioning a lot more, and they're the ones that are drilling down with other people as to why they're not actually paying attention to the logic of their own convictions. And that really encouraged me. So I appreciate the kind words because I guess it is important enough to have this conversation if we're having it from the heart, if we're having it truly from the attempt to communicate, understand, and just flash out what we believe is true versus just yell at each other what we think is true. So I appreciate that. Um, What's up, Inside Out? I shot you a DM, but I realized you're busy. I'm not sure how you format these, but I have some interesting thoughts on what the code is. I don't know where you send me a DM. Is that on X? So I rarely, if ever, check my social media messages because there's simply too many avenues of information at this point. I cannot pay attention to everything. Apologies. But if you do want my attention, you can always email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Simulationx@gmail.com. There you go. And I'm also now going to be of more of the practice of trying to get back closer to, I've had some conversations with my uh, beautiful fiance today and in the last few days. And I think I need to put more attention on bringing more of my heart into the conversation and being a little bit, bringing back the same kind of attitudes that I feel the most comfortable in. And under that rubric, I'm going to be very honest with you guys because I hope that there's an understanding on the other end. At the moment, for me, if you email me, there is no way that eventually I will not respond to your email. I will. But just know in advance that if you actually want to share your ideas about the code, your best bet is to actually to go to our Discord. And not I will probably see it, but actually bouncing it off the community is your best bet because at this point we're at a stage of the development of the project. We there are as many theories that there are people. And because of that, they can't all be true, right? And I know that all of us we love and are attached to our ideas. What we're looking for now are people to substantiate these ideas. The point is that we now have a golden opportunity to actually use the internet and what the World Wide Web in general is for bettering humanity. How do you do that? You leverage the fact that everybody has a mind, has an ability to play with ideas, and they get to engage with them directly. So it's one thing to come and say, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you think?" It's another thing to allow that idea to actually impact you. Think about it for a second, work with it, and think how you can maybe substantiate your idea. How can you test it, right? Because ideas are relatively easy to come up with. How do you substantiate if it holds any water? That's what we're looking for. You don't have to partake in the molecule, by the way. If you join our Discord, which is the third link in my YouTube channel, if you go to my YouTube channel, Dango Thoughts, Dango Thoughts, you will see a link on my main page. The third link from the top is our Discord channel. Please join. We have an incredible community. And what we have some ways that people can potentially play with these lasers without using the molecule at all, with pattern recognition software like OCR and Kraken and others. And even if you have no knowledge in that space, there's still some theoretical frameworks that you can play with. But we asking people to do a little bit more at this point than just come up with ideas. Sit with it. Think about what that would mean. How would that express itself in the world in a way that you can discern whether your idea is correct or it's incorrect? That's what I would encourage everybody to do. You want to share the idea? Best address is Discord. Second best is my email, lasersimulationx@gmail.com. And I will eventually see that information. But if you truly want your ideas, and I'm speaking to everyone now, to participate in our project, I would encourage you to actually do something with that idea. Try and run with it. See if there's anything that you can actually produce that can add to the conversation aside from just ideas. And if it actually contributes something of value, you will also be obviously credited for coming up with this idea that actually works. So that's what I would encourage people to do more. Also, thank you so much, Ellipsian, for the rose. There you go. Nico is saying if the idea has legs, Discord would elevate it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ellipsian. I appreciate you. Thank you for the gifts. Beautiful profile picture, by the way. Why is this slimy? Hold on. I gotta clean the phone. Oh, the war one. Hold on, I gotta wash my hands. Okay. Again, thank you so much for the roses. I appreciate that. Interesting times. This is a very relevant, still very interesting. Wait, how do y'all seeing if any updates? I've been caught up. Very interesting times. This is very relevant. Still very interesting. Well, thank you. Would a satellite be able to get an angle from the side? No, absolutely not. Satellite is way too far. You would have to literally be on the side of the ground somehow. How much mushrooms do you need to take to see the code? I would say anything above 3 grams, you should be in starting to kind of see it maybe. It looks like it was going to be hairy, and it landed safely. The show. It's okay. I'm okay with hairy. I'm okay with hairy because I think that at this point, not talking about what is obviously true, which some people take certain matters to a level where it's just truly criminal, while screaming that the other side is criminal. That is not just a difference of opinion. That is some kind of a demonic force that needs to be corrected. So I think it is important that people who see through that speak up and have the conversation. So Harry, I don't mind so much. My main contention with this kind of stuff is usually that it felt to me like it's pointless because people don't actually change their minds usually. People are very stubborn and they kind of stay on what they are, on what they believe. But from what you're telling me, and actually from a couple other people that told me about that live, and also from what my friend is telling me, that no, it does change people's minds. So maybe it's just sometimes uncomfortable, but it needs to be done. Some other loud voices reasoned people into craziness. Uh, it's time to correct course. These symbols are sounds. That's extremely important. Think about the sound of creation. I don't think it's sound because it does not respond to any kind of audio whatsoever. And if it will be sound, it will be changed by any vibration in the room, and it doesn't. It seems to not respond basically to anything so far. It just kind of operates on its own side. So most likely, it's definitely not sound. Can it be sound in some other orthogonal dimension? Maybe, but then you have to demonstrate a lot of things. How do you influence it? What kind of perturbations you can do to it that will prove that you understand that it is sound in some form? These are difficult questions, but that's exactly the point. Progress is very difficult, but I appreciate you putting thought into it. I do appreciate that. It's not their fault to be in the darkness. We are sold the darkness every direction, not fair to all humans. And to definitely think that it's okay to poison Americans for sure. And to definitely think, and the definitely think. I think I understand what you're saying. I appreciate you, Inside Out. You have tested it. In what way have you tested it, Inside Out? So by the way, if you're new to the chat, I don't know if you are or you're not. I'm usually very late to the comments. So if you're surprised as to why I'm only reading these comments now, is because sometimes I go on these rants and then I'm trying to get as many of the comments by the order that they were received. Sometimes if there's too many, I'll just skip to the bottom. But right now, I think I'm just going to read a few more. So don't get discouraged if it seems like I'm really late with my responses. Frequency of this dimension, maybe ellipsian, but I actually think it's much more fundamental than just our dimension. I think it's cross-dimensional. Davis is saying, oh, I don't see it really. Absolutely, ellipsian. So you saying Inside Out that you have tried it. So if you already answered how you tried it later in the bottom, I will keep reading. But if you haven't, I would say, how did you test it? You ran the experiment, exactly how I'm saying it, and you managed to influence the code with sound? If so, I would love to hear about this. Okay, so Inside Out, you're saying the symbols represent sound, Hebrew and Japanese characters that represent sound. So I don't think they're Hebrew or Japanese. I think it's just the closest thing that we can compare them to. So we don't really know what they are. We don't even know if they're language. But what makes you think that they represent sound? If had this experience before hearing about you. So if you so here's what I think you're missing. If you're talking about some other codes that you're seeing, usually when I investigate this question with people, it is literally the most frequent message I get from people that they see other code or they think it's the same code. They say I see the code without the laser or without the molecule. When we investigate, we usually find out it is not the same code. So unless you've seen the code that I'm talking about under the conditions that I'm describing, it will be very difficult to compare them. You will first have to somehow see the code, then tell me if it's actually the same, first of all. And if you see, I would submit to you that if you do the experiment the way that we're talking about, you will see that whatever it is that you did before that you saw that the code changed with the sound, it won't. We ran the test many, many times. But again, we're always open for any revision. So if you have some data that we can use, please share it on Discord. And people would either tell you that this was tried and maybe there would be some corrections happening, or they would say, oh my God, we've never thought about that before. And that's amazing. And I'm rooting for that. What do you mean by Jessica is saying it takes multiple repetition and even the church knew it takes 10 minutes of training to reach trance state? To what effect are you saying this? I'll share on Discord, but I have replicated or summoned the same beings by listening to the same back track. Got it. Okay, well that's different though, because that is not sound. That is what it does to your mind. So it changes something about the frequency of your mind, and that would be different than just sound. Now it's possible that sound in particular is key in influencing your consciousness in a particular way, but then the main driver, the main operative would be your consciousness and the levels of your consciousness according to its vibration. That would be the key component, which would mean that you could probably also influence your consciousness in other ways to achieve the same result, if you know about it or not. But the operative is consciousness, not sound. Sound might be key in playing the role, but it's not the central unit. But again, I would love if you share the full idea so we can actually analyze it together. That would be great. If you vocalize on during the molecule experience, it will blow your mind. All right. Pretty sure the molecule would blow your mind with or without that. It's an energy initiation through the belly, the chest, and then the throat. But if you don't open your mouth fully, the sound doesn't resonate out. The low voice turns into a high voice after the F. I think I'm missing something about the conversation. Choose will choose natural. Oh, I see. I see. It's part of a ongoing conversation. Harmonic rises from interface brings another tone. You think she's hot? By the way, I'm gonna put the website here. If you guys want to know more about the project, just so you guys know, you can always check out codeofreality.com. Let me throw away my tea bag. Thank you so much, Elipsion. Appreciate the gift. My human design trauma explanation is crazy accurate. I'm scared shitless. Wait, why are you scared shitless? Let me move everything here. Okay. I gotta order the right tripod. I'll do it tonight. What makes sense to you? Mikey? I didn't quite understand. Oh, okay. So you guys talking a lot of stuff about sound that I actually don't know anything about. Octaves and all that stuff I know very little about, so it kind of goes over my head. Inside Out is saying, yeah, this is hard to get across in this type of format. I'll do this experiment. It just seemed like what I found. What I found, the results to be from your subjects were in line with Hebrew Japanese characters, more specifically the ones that represent specific sounds, like she. Anyway, this is something to do. Feel like I should put in a forum. My point is simply to get the thought out there. And as I have said, I've heard sound that summon certain beings or entities. I'm not sure that other something. Yeah, I know it's a difficult format to operate in. If you want, if you go to TikTok right now, because I'm also streaming there. On TikTok, I'm just Danny Goller. On X, I'm Goller Danny. So just flip him, Danny Goller. If you go on TikTok right now and tell me that you are Inside Out from X, I'll bring you up and we can just chat about it in real time. You can explain it to me. It's still bleeding? Still bleeding? Better? Yeah, so just so you guys know, this is something that I would let me rephrase what Bradley's trying to say, what I was trying to say. I this is this everything you guys are saying maybe makes sense to you, but if somebody doesn't understand like octaves and all that stuff, I don't know. I didn't understand anything you guys said. Nothing. And I'm really trying. So unless you can maybe put together like a coherent explanation of what you're talking about without like give me the 10,000 miles view, 10,000 miles. It's very high up. 10,000 feet overview of what you're talking about because these specifics they mean nothing to people who don't understand what you're saying. And vortex math is not real math. I'm sorry. This just that's the truth. But what's up, mommy? What's up from Argentina? I love the conversation with Danny Jones and Zoltan. I appreciate you, brother. What is she doing? Sorry to interject. And his partner having a nosebleed. I asked for a specific reason. No. It's our dog. She has a little bit of a bleed in her lip, and we're giving her antibiotics and all that stuff, which she keeps scratching, and that was what it was. Music theory, I know, but okay. Well, I guess you guys understand. As long as you guys understand, that's important. I just don't know if that translates to all the other stuff that you guys are saying about free flow of free. Oh my god, free flow of energy. I don't know what's going on with my brain in the last few days. It's crazy. Like I can't pronounce words. Free flow of energy. Because these are very general statements, and they mean something very specific. And I think people use them as kind of like general heuristics, but you have to try and speak a language that is general, that everybody understands. Otherwise, and also, free flow. Oh my God. Free flow. What is happening with my brain? I know, but that's not what you just completing my words. Thank you. That wasn't the problem. The problem is that for some reason I can't pronounce combinations of words properly, like the word words and world in the last few days. It's just my brain just jams. I don't know why. But anyways, free flow of energy is kind of an empty statement unless you tether it to something specific or a functionality. So when you're talking about openings of harmonic oscillations and all that stuff, you have to show that it might be theoretically nice that like certain harmonies open these channels more or close them more. What I'm having a hard time with is that people usually use these in theoretical frames that don't actually map onto anything that anybody ever tried. They just say, "Oh, we all know that this and this and this and this," when in reality we actually don't know any of these things because if unless somebody tested them. Free flow. Yeah, I mean, Mike. Yeah, again, I'm trying my best to like be like super considerate, but like you're losing me with this because it's like you're just throwing a bunch of memes that everybody knows that kind of belong to the spiritual memeplex. Fibonacci, quantum, free flow of energy, harmonic oscillations, music theory, just these generalities. It doesn't mean anything unless you can show me how you're applying it. And I don't mean this in any discouraging way. It's very important that we put something into a frame that we can do something with. And yeah, sorry, Mikey, just share it on Discord. We can engage with this more on Discord. So, I love this. Bradley saying, "I'm a musician, been playing music for over 25 years. I understand harmonics, resonance, pitch, octaves, all of it. what they are saying doesn't make any sense at all. Just a bunch of random jargon. Uh, it's as real as calculus. Just because you cannot understand it, don't make it not real. I can say same about the matrix. Okay. For me, vortex math translates to angles and degrees, very related to Pythagorean math. Do you understand? Can you build models with it? Can you show me how you translate it to topology that we do understand? If you can do that, I'll listen very carefully to what you have to say. So Jessica is saying it's a raise in harmonics from repetition, like tone beats, inducing a rise in frequency, like a bell or singing bowl. After continued duration, the higher tone rings out. Okay. Well, what does that mean, though? I literally do not understand what is the significance of this. I just have to do math and understand it. Oh, I understand math. Math is a big topic. What kind of math? Math is probably the biggest discipline of study that humans have ever built. What part of math are you talking about? Discord is complicated for me as vortex math is for you. Vortex math is not complicated for me. I actually understand why it doesn't work. So I would claim, and this is again not to discourage you, but I would claim that you also don't understand it. And the only way you can prove that I understand it is if you can map what. So explain something about math in general. Math is a language we use to denote relationships in logic, operations, functions, which are basically operations taken to the limit. And it allows you to describe certain regularities, not just in the physical world, but in any operation that is axiomatic and makes sense. Now, what math really is at the bottom, in terms of philosophical terms, that's we're never going to finish this conversation. But math is descriptive by definition. So there's certain things we decide that denote a particular state or a number of states, and then we use these symbols to represent relationships. That's the simplest way to describe math. You can say it is the science of relationships, okay? And processes which are part of the relationships. So now, what happens in these kind of instances of what you're trying to describe right now, very often what people would do is they would latch on to something that has some kind of visual representation that looks very pretty, like toroids, for example, or fractals, which, by the way, arises from very real math. It's called chaos theory. And they put them in this other category of kind of, very mysterious things, because the picture kind of denotes something mysterious, it seems. The thing is that no matter how mysterious it is, it still needs to be able to connect to everything else that we understand in terms of our regular zoo of mathematics, because it is literally it's divided by these different branches of mathematics that are specializing in denoting a particular aspect of relational values. Whatever math, vortex math, whatever math that you want to come up with, no matter how fancy, if it doesn't speak, if there's no bridges from it, if it doesn't if you can't create a translation from what it is saying to everything else that is we already know, it does not belong in simply the regular operative steps from what we understand about the world. Specifically, you can basically translate, it might take a lot of work in some cases, but you can basically translate anything in mathematics to anything else in mathematics. Might take you a lot of steps, but you can do it because it's all describing the world. So this is why, people sometimes you see these memes of like, oh my God, sine is sine and cosine that they somehow denote both. You see the circle and the waves. Like, ooh, how can it be circles and waves? Well, it's a spiral, right? So so it describes this relationship, what a spiral is. So it, what I think is missing here is that most people don't understand how much mathematicians actually understand. You know that there's 8-dimensional numbers, octonians. There's 4-dimensional numbers, um, quaternions, and there's 8-dimensional numbers, octonians. Those are real things, right? And they have a different logic. They're not. You don't have the same kind of arithmetic to them. They kind of sit in this like weird relationship that you almost have to memorize by a map, but they have a logic to them. All of these things are super fancy, and they're real, like real in the sense that they map onto things that we can prove, map onto everything else in mathematics. And even with the incompleteness theorem, still you somehow used the tools of mathematics to show that it will always have this some kind of um, an opening. There's always going to be a situation where you're going to be able to when you will where you will fail to describe the path towards something that you already know to be true, which is also true of mathematics, which is kind of wild and weird. Math is, by definition, one of the most intricate, incredible, complex things humans have ever devised. So, let me ask you again, how does vortex math map onto, let's say, geometry? Show me how it maps onto a simple topology of what it is trying to denote. I want to see that. Davis, I see you just keep saying, show me a question. But what is the question? Nico said the quantum Fibonacci toroid. I do need more methylene blue. Maybe that's the problem. I actually didn't take mine today. Maybe that's the problem. How are you, Wendy? Life frequencies? Shai is saying, side topic, I'm curious if you have experience with Wim Hof breath work and if you found any similarities with the spirit molecule. Yes, I actually do Wim Hof every time before any session. I do not find any correlation with NN whatsoever. I do find strong correlation with the experience of 5. So with 5, you definitely have similar kind of spaces that you can enter with breathwork. With NN, I don't think there's very strong correlation or any correlation. Again, vortex math might be interesting, but the question is it does it work? That's the question, not if it's interesting. You okay, Bubba? So something you should probably know, Terry. Terry is saying Nikola Tesla himself is often quoted saying, "If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe." Uh, if you read, and maybe you've heard me say this before, but if you read Tesla's own words, his autobiography, you would know that he would be the last person to get behind a conversation like this. He hated it, like with passion. Like it's really ironic that he's usually quoted by people who get into these spaces without a lot of understanding, but he rejected a lot of money from businessmen because they offered him a position that had to do with proving some of the stuff that is being discussed here, like all this kind of like out there. Woo! Tesla hated it with passion. So do it with it what you will, but that's the facts. So Tesla said a lot of things. You can take a quote by anybody famous and you can utilize it to prove anything you want. It's just how it works. You have to understand the context of everything. That Tesla correctly also said that you should look at frequencies and not at the specific like particles and things like this. But the what it means is that you want to look at the relationships between things, not at the things themselves, which is absolutely correct. It does not mean he didn't mean you got to look at frequencies, man. It's not what he was saying. So it's really important to understand these things. Literally gave a similar description to my young daughter about math just the other day. I'm not even good at math. There you go. Beautiful. The code is visible at a certain angle. No, the code is visible at any angle from our space. Terry's saying, well said. So we have to slowly evolve to make everything fit with what we already know, or it's so far outside of our understanding that it makes no difference to us, has no relation. Basically, yeah. Okay. All right, Mike. So you can share that on Discord and we can look at the details. Because obviously here it's very difficult. Been listening, and so far my understanding is that the maths. So Mikey is saying, let's say the light frequency of 1, 203, 345 to 6, 5, 7, 6, 4. If using VBM, those numbers equal 369. It is a resonant frequency. Okay. No, it's not real math in the way that mathematicians use math. Forget about engineers, or it's not. It doesn't map on to everything else that we understand. And if somebody can show how it does, then by all means, please do. Basically, so fucking yeah. It's more like numerology dressed up in a Fibonacci cloak, shot through a Tesla quote. Nice. And sprinkled with sacred geometry dust. That's a quote that I got to put on a shirt. Tesla hated magical thinking. That's what he hated. So you're saying that you're managing to oh, okay, wait, I'm confusing two people. Tesla, the man had a long fuse for brilliance and a short fuse for bullshit, basically. No, 369 is not everything. 369 is three numbers. So it's definitely not everything. And I'm not even telling you this from any resistant frame, just these oversimplifications of things without the need to understand the depths of the complexity of reality. You can't possibly believe that you think you understand everything just by focusing on that, right? If you already want to put your bet on something, it will be something that does not include words at all. So you can say that the ultimate simplicity, the full understanding of reality would be complete silent moment, complete presence, and it would not include any symbolic representation. It will not include not 3, not 6, not 9, not words, not nothing. It would not include anything, and yet will include everything. That you can say, yes, it's true. But if you wanna go in that direction, what we're doing now, we're not moving the dial in that direction, right? If you want to get to that and go in that direction, you got to move more towards the Buddhistic direction, which does not include discussions of this kind. You're trying to speak a technical language, so technical language requires coherence. And just to say frequency, just to say harmonies. I understand what you're trying to say because I know the meme, but I'm telling you again, if it doesn't map onto what else we understand, then it's kind of a merry-go-round. You just go in circles. Three six nine are magic OCD numbers, and Tesla had severe OCD. That is true. No, 369 are very interesting. What is that? Oh, it's my shirt. No, 369 are very interesting relationships for sure. No, I think 369 definitely holds water in terms of interesting relational combinations. But to state that the answer to everything is, of course, absurd. Tesla did study longitudinal waves. That's hilarious. Gematria, yeah, it's a kind of interesting because it does hold some interesting relationships of human cognition and comprehension. But I think that's going to take us far afield. There are definitely fields of, I guess you can say, study like gematria, which is like basically it's like numerology, but that is taken from the Hebrew texts and mostly utilized in Kabbalah and from the Zohar and in the Bible. What's interesting there is that, so it is interesting because it translates from the language itself, from Hebrew. But they did a attempt. I think I spoke about this before. They basically took Huckleberry Finn, and they created the same kind of the same kind of prophecies that they do from the Bible with Gematria. Like they combined a bunch of things this way. And what they realize is if there's a thick enough of a body of work, so Huckleberry Finn is definitely a very thick book, you can basically play this game with any book. That's what they discovered. So, for what it's worth, but it is interesting that you can play these kind of scenarios. And look, in the end of the day, if we accept that we live in a software that registers information in a particular way, you will have some universal properties in it that on the surface of it might look spooky because they are connected, but they're connected from this deeper layer that we're not aware of. So if you're only studying the surface, they might look kind of like, whoa, what is that, right? But then again, we know that from quantum physics, right? From entanglement and things like this. It's like, oh my God, how are these things that seem to be separated by space seem to be the same object? They're connected on a deeper level. But what we're interested in science, and especially in with cognitive physics, which is the thing that we're basically building now, is we're interested in what are the actual ramifications and what is the new rule set under which we're operating. And if we're just going to be throwing around these like random concepts, you're not actually coming up with any new rule sets. You're just kind of, you know, you're just saying words. So 42. Again, if you guys want to have a conversation, TikTok is open. Nobody's taking that for some reason. You can go to TikTok, Danny Goller, and I'll bring you on. Just tell me that you just came from YouTube, and I'll bring you on. I don't know why you're not taking this opportunity. Thank you, Elysium. What do I mean by magical thinking? I mean by thinking that things that by making obscure connections between some mathematical regularities and the meaning of life, that's magical thinking. It doesn't connect to reality via experimentation. That's how I think I would comfortably define the thing that Tesla was very much allergic to. He disliked this very much. In other words, this whole world of people who believe that Schumann resonance has to do with human cognition, all of these like ideas that at some level might be true, but unless you can substantiate how they're true, this whole world of thinking this way, that's what Tesla uh, disliked tremendously, and he was very open about that. Terry is asking, doesn't most of the math we use right now only work because we set limitations or parameters? Honest questions. Well, it has to operate within the bound, but mathematics is flexible enough to be able to include. I mean, we have set theory, Cantor's set theories, so it talks about infinities. So mathematics can deal with infinities, and there's apparently different kinds of infinities, and you can study the relationships between the different kinds of infinities, and you can describe their parameters, countable, uncountable infinities. There's all kinds. There's really interesting things that comes out of math proper that for all intents and purposes is truly magnificent and sometimes even spooky, and it's kind of like what, but yeah, it's like you can prove that. So there's all these games with infinite operations that you can actually collapse into a final answer. You can and you would think, for example, that set theory would not have any applications to the real world because it talks about infinities, but we use it all the time to build certain things, to send rockets to space. Even calculus is really in the business of taking the limit, which means an infinite number of somethings, collapsing it into some kind of a finite parameter that you then use to make an accurate calculation of something. So, right? So derivatives, the whole world of derivatives is basically taking things at their limit. And what that means is that you collapsing the infinite potential of it into something that is finite to allow you to make a specific calculation. And all of these things are math proper. Very smart people has been thinking about this since humans were humans. So, and I think what's being not realized here is that it's not like they were like some forgotten genius renegades that just figured everything out and everybody ignored them. That's a meme. That's not true. If you have something of value to contribute to the world, it will be absolutely included in whatever it is, whatever domain you wanted to participate in. And something that even though I'm not a huge fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I do take his quote on that, which is that Tesla was not some kind of a forgotten genius. There's a unit in physics named after him. That's how much respect he gets. There's a unit called Tesla to measure the power of magnetic pull between two magnets. So this is a perfect, the hyper lethal. This is a perfect Tesla quote that is taken out of context. The quote is, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous century of its existence." Perfect. What do you think that means? Because if you think that means that he's thinking along the lines of Schumann resonance is influencing human cognition, no, it does not mean that. Okay. What this means, and we know this in science today, is that ultimately at bottom, what the world is doing is not what we call physical. Forget about the fact that even what we call physical is a mystery still, if you really think about it. But what really is at the core of the world are the relationships, are the rules that give rise to everything, including what we call physical. The main game is played not from what we call physical, but the thing that gives rise to what we call physical. This quote says nothing about what that thing is. It is absolutely correct in that you should focus on the thing that gives rise to the relationships that give rise to matter, or what we call matter, which I don't think any physicist would deny, by the way. It's just that what we call physical is a heuristic of a representation that arises as a result of the fundamental rules of the universe. But no physicist thinks that what gave rise to, even if we go with the simplest, kind of like most accepted Big Bang, let's say, nobody thinks that what it came from was physical, or at least not in the sense of the word that we use today, because in order for something to be physical, you need the laws of physics to be what they are, to give rise to the arrangement of energy and what we call matter, which defined by particular particles with a particular spin. All of these things then become what we call matter. So of course, what you want to study, if you want to understand the truth behind what gives rise to everything, is not the physical. That would be true either way. What Tesla for sure did not mean by this, and we know for sure he did not mean this because of what he himself said about this kind of thinking, he did not say that the belief in chakras and in spirits and of humans doing even out-of-body experience, which I know a lot of people here accept, and including myself, by the way, Tesla was very much not on board with this. Tesla was born with certain abilities that some people have, which is that he could literally visualize things very clearly in his mind, almost like an augmented reality. Like he could see objects, very, very complex objects. He could rotate them fully. He could see them with color. He often said that when he was working on something, very often he could complete the project in his mind. He wouldn't even have to sketch anything because he could see the whole thing. But that's an ability of the mind, whatever it is, right? And these distinctions are important to make because people very often claim Tesla for their team when Tesla would absolutely not be on that team. That's all I'm pointing out. Dolphin is asking, I'm sure I don't have the proper words, but is the molecule allowing you to see a large percentage of the light spectrum producing frequencies of the code? Maybe. I don't really know. What's up, Daniel? When people are thinking about multiple infinities, I always try to contemplate whether they are not understanding what proper infinity means. No. I'll correct you here, brother. So I can demonstrate it to you very clearly. So one of the thought, I guess it's not a thought experiment, but one of the illustrations that Cantor, the guy who came up with set theory and all the math around infinities, did is that he basically drew a circle. It's very simple to see. And he said, now you take the circle and now you fill in the circle with, well, I don't have a pencil here, but you take a circle and then you draw infinite lines from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Okay. And then you you drew a bunch of lines and you fill out the circle completely. Okay. Now, imagine that you have an infinitely thin pencil, right? If you fill in which again, at least in the aggregate, we know is possible because limits are possible, and that we know this just from calculus, right? So if you fill in the circle fully, there's no more room in the circle because the pencil is infinite. So there's infinite lines inside the circle, okay? All you got to do to see that there are different levels of infinities is draw a bigger circle outside of that circle. And now he says, now extend the lines that were in the smaller circle out into the edges of the outer circle. And what you will find is that now you have gaps between those lines in the bigger circle. What that tells you is that whatever number of lines would have to fill the circle on the outside is a greater number, which means it's a larger infinity. So there are actual mathematical ways to show this. And there's even, like, look up Graham's number. I spoke about this before, but there's something called Graham's number. It is a number. It's a, I guess, theoretical number, but it is a number in mathematics that won the Guinness World Record, Book of World Records, as the largest number. There's such a number. You can look it up, Graham's number. If I'm not mistaken, Graham is still alive today. And he's a mathematician that basically showed that there is a number called Graham's number that we don't know how many digits it has. If I'm not mistaken, look it up because I don't remember the details, but if I'm not mistaken, we do know its last 3 digits or something crazy like that. However, what he proved is that if you add 1 to that number, it goes back to 0. Don't ask me how he did it, but that's a real thing. You can look it up. Now, you can say this is where mathematicians kind of go off the deep end. Listen, with set theory, we can do things that are very specific that we can't do in any other way, or not easily with any other way. So I wouldn't discard it that quickly. We're talking about set infinities. So happy 200s. So this is a common misconception, Yoni, of this channel. Yoni is saying, remember the channel is about taking a molecule and seeing the code of a laser. Harsha, this channel, I am making a claim that is large that I can substantiate. It does not mean that we have to accept every nonsense that walks through the door. And I will challenge anybody out of a sign of respect, the same way I would expect to be challenged as I am challenged for making my claims. I would stand and defend my claims according to what I know to be true, but I'm not going to sit and demand people to accept what I'm saying, which sounds like a little bit what some people are doing. And I see it as a sign of respect to challenge people for their opinions if I believe they don't make sense. So Mateo is asking if we can do what Tesla could do by imagining this way if we practice. Graham's number, how do you spell it? Hold on, I'll find it. It is called Graham, Graham, and then apostrophe S, Graham's number. There was a really nice, hold on. Let me see, Horizon. There was a episode of about mathematics on BBC Horizon, and it was a really nice one. Let's see if I can find it. Can't really find it right now, but you can definitely find Graham's number. Like, it's just in Wiki. Let me double check also, because there's 2 Graham's number, by the way. They are different. Was the way you know. There it is. Yeah, okay. So Ronald Graham. The way you know is because he was also he was performing in Cirque du Soleil as well. Yeah, Ronald Graham. There you go. That is the guy. Oh no, he died in 2020. Oh man, that sucks. I didn't know that. Well, Ronald Graham. Look it up. Graham's number. To the question of whether we can do the same thing as Tesla, I personally don't believe so. I think some people are just born with these kind of abilities, and maybe it's trainable, but we're going to have to unlock some pretty heavy understanding of the human mind to be able to unlock that. Who did Tesla believe first discovered math? I don't think Tesla ever voiced his opinion on such a thing. Also, math was never really discovered. There was no one instance. Mathematics in general, just using arithmetic is something that I think arose naturally from human abstraction. Then when we started using actual, denoting a number for what it is versus tallying something. So there's a big difference between saying, thinking in terms of I have 1 stick, 2 sticks, 3 sticks, and so on. If you have that kind of a thinking, which for early humans, that was probably what it was, it is different than saying number 3. Because number 3 is an abstraction that just denotes 3. Now, there's certain things that you can't do. There's a lot of things you can't do by thinking in tallying ways. You can't, for example, do heavy multiplication if you're thinking in terms of addition. Like if I every time I say 3, you have to think, wait, that means 1, 2, 3 things. Okay. Now if you're trying to multiply, let's say 3 times, I don't know, 5,000. If you're thinking in tallying ways, your brain would not be able to do this. You can do this easily right now, right? 15,000. But if you're thinking in tallying ways, if your brain is running the software of tallying, you won't be able to do it until you count 5,000. and you can't hold that kind of a number in your head and like imagine it, right? You'll be like 1 stick, 2 sticks. You have to go to 5,000. Then you have to say, okay, now I have to do another one of those. Okay, 1, 2. The fact that you can abstract, you can do multiplication. So we take it for granted. But this is the type of software that at some point came along the way because we kind of figured out ways to do this. And then we started applying it to the real world and it started helping us doing more complex things. What year exactly was this kind of, I don't even know, arithmetic? Sorry, multiplication? I don't know. We can look it up. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very hard to pinpoint. What year invented? It says about 4,000 years ago. I don't know how accurate that is, but they use base of 60, the oldest. Yeah, because they also used different bases as well. I don't know enough about the history. Reading through your comments. What's up, President Zaddy? Thank you, Evil Icon. Appreciate you. Can you share the link of the extraction? You can go to, hold on. Oi. The best channel is this. Wait, what? Come on, man. Wait, what? What happened? Did they remove his channel? Oh, here it is. Okay. No, know how to spell properly. So it will be this. Share channel. This is Eric's channel. Stability Tesla head reminds me of you seeing the code. Yeah, kind of. I imagine that that's how he saw these things, honestly. Yeah, very much so. No, not always getting upgrades or updates. I wish I would. And so far, David, it seems that, yeah, you kind of have to. Oh, wait. Is that you, Carter? Is David you? But if not, then no. We so far as we know, nobody. Well, I met 2 women that told me they saw the code without the molecule, and some people say they can kind of see a lingering effect after, but it's not the same as always seeing it after. Just wanted to say thank you that I joined the Discord. I look forward to the interactions I will be having on the server. Using my friend you2 Inside Out. Thank you so much for your contribution. I really appreciate that. Hello, Miller. And unfortunately, I think I will. Thank you, Evil Icon. I will have to adjourn for tonight. It's getting a little late for me. It was a very chill 200th. Maybe tomorrow we'll have an exciting one. But I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for joining, as always. Thank you for the team. Thank you, Bradley. Love you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the team that are not here, Chris and Ebony and Jessica, Carter, of course. Who else am I forgetting? Sofa King is part of the regular community. All the people that came and jived and had a good discussion. Evil Icon, thank you so much. Nico, love you, brother. Thank you so much for always the contribution. And all the other people that are making this community what it is. Beautiful. Love you all. If you want to follow me across platforms, you'll meet Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X. It'll be LaserX83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. DANGO Thoughts. Tomorrow we have a members live as well, weekly members live for members only. So if you want to join that, which is much more streamlined because we have a lot less people and we focus on particular subjects, we watch videos, it's a lot of fun. You should come join our members program on YouTube on Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. It includes these weekly lives. It includes Zoom calls with me, includes early access to all my content, and private stuff for my life that will exist only on YouTube members and nowhere else. Love you guys, and have an incredible Sunday tomorrow. Not the beginning of the week yet. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace and love. Ciao. See you, everyone.